Hello and welcome to episode 12 of BGCP Disassembled. I want to start off with an apology that you're not hearing the lovely dulcet tones of American Ian this week, but he is otherwise engaged, so you've got us three instead. I'm Dan and I am joined this week by Buzzin' Benjamin, and we also have the triumphant return of Bossman Ian.
Yay!
Very hungover, Ian.
What's happening, lads? How you doing?
Yeah, good. Ian's struggling.
I'm at that like kind of hungover stage where it's like it's the second day of a hangover, and like I don't feel great, but it's like probably the worst for me is the second day of a hangover. Like the first day is just a blur of like eating and sleeping and like sweating, and this is like you know that scene in X-Men, the first where Senator Kelly like turns into a big puddle of water basically on the table while Storm is like trying to help him. That's how I feel right now. Like I'm just going to burst into water and I'm dead. I'm done.
Gross.
You've been busy though with your marts, have you not, Ian? You've been doing your comic stuff and your selling.
So I'm kind of, so I do a normal job. I wouldn't say what it is, but I do a normal job Monday, Thursday. And what I do is I'll do like longer hours so I can get Friday, Saturday, Sunday off. So Friday, Saturday, and Sunday is spent trying to line up interviews or making sure reviews are out on the website, but then also doing the events, but then also trying to be like a good dad to like two kids, but then I'll also like clean the house or like go visit people and stuff like that. So I'm a bit stretched right now, but
he's an assistant.
I'm getting back out there. We're starting to do markets and stuff like that because the whole Comic Con, I don't see us being able to do Comic Cons at full capacity until the end of the year, unfortunately. Right. And any other Comic Con promoter that thinks otherwise is kidding themselves. So anybody that's going to a Comic Con in August, September, October, it's probably going to get postponed. And the reason they're not cancelling it is because they can't afford to be honest. So anybody that's got Comic Con tickets this year, I don't know. I doubt they're happening, to be fair. It's like Glasgow City Centre. It's like we're in Tier 3. We're probably going to Tier 2 next week, but then we might not, depending on what's happening. So I think it's just too risky to announce it in this year. I'm doing these wee markets where it's not a Comic Con. It's 10 markets. They're selling, the best kind of stuff that you would buy at a Comic Con, like comics, art, figures, that kind of stuff. We're just doing it in like wee kind of shopping centres, or in kind of Glasgow. We're going up to Fife, potentially Aberdeen, Edinburgh at some point, and we're just doing this on a weekly basis, just to kind of get out there and kind of keep myself busy because it's after a year and a half or like no doing events, or maybe a year and a half. Just kind of get bored, and it's just want to kind of get back out there and do eating at this point. So I'm just trying to keep myself active, keep the the vendors active, and strangely, like the traders that are doing the events are making a lot of money, like more so than what they would make at a Comic Con, just because there's nothing like that happening right now. So even like a small market, I'm getting people messaging like every day, how much are tickets? Like when is this? What special guests are going to be there? And I'm like, it's a comic market. Like it's just 10 traders selling stuff. Yeah. That's it. Like there's no cosplay. If you want to dress in a costume, that's up to you. But there's nothing. It's no special. It's no the Hydro. It's no the SECC. It's a comic market. That's it. Mm-hmm. And people are like, "Oh, is the Comic Con?"
From the photos I've seen, like it looks awesome just for how like minimalistic it is. It still looks like packed with content. The pins I've been looking at look awesome.
I know that was my kind of wee kind of side hustle. Like I've been collecting pins for years, and I just like to the point where like I just had too many that I was just like, what am I doing with these? Like I'm just buying them, and I'll wear some of them, but then I just end up wearing the same ones for months at a time, and I'm like, maybe I should sell some of them. And I was like, maybe I should sell some of the events. Like, I know I'm always going to get a table because it's my event. So, so I was like, what a better time to experiment than do these wee kind of small markets where I don't have any competition, and if it's rubbish, I can fix it, and then by the time I do kind of bigger Comic Cons, and I can bring them back, it's good. But it went really well. Made some money, which is nice. Comic traders selling comics, which at a Comic Con is it's very rare these days that comic sellers actually make decent money. So it's always good to see people picking up comic books again. But that's it. So these are probably going to become like a weekly thing. Even though I don't like doing 2-day events, I'd rather do a 1-day event. But if it means they make money and traders are like, please do 2 days, then I'll probably do the 2 days. But having to get up at like 6 o'clock in the morning and go to like Kirkcaldy or Cumbernauld on a Sunday morning isn't my idea of fun, but it pays the bills. So apart from that, I had a wee drink on Friday, which is the first time I've drank in a while. So it's I'm a bit fragile.
The key is to just keep drinking, just every night.
2 kids, can't do that.
Those days are behind you.
Aye, like even the 40 drinking like 2 days in a row. Like Alan was drinking, but he was hungover on the Friday, and he struggled. So he was like, he drank a few beers, but he was like in a good mood, but he was not drunk at any point. So he was probably the most sober out of the lot. Well, it was good. But apart from that, just keeping busy as always.
I must admit, I've never been into Paisley so much in my life over the last 2 weeks because it's the only place you can get a pint.
God, plans to, but they were cancelled.
Okay, so
drinking at home now.
I think we're going to kick off a discussion topic this week because that's what we've been doing the last few weeks, and people seem to like it. Nobody's complained yet, so I guess that's a good sign. So the discussion topic for this week is franchises of the past that you would like to see come back in some shape or form. It can be anything from a film to a TV series to a video game to a book. And we've fired the question out on Facebook. I think Ian has asked folk and got some answers, but we all have our own answers as well. So I don't know if you want to go over the community ones and then we'll go through ours.
Oh, video games! I didn't really think video games. I thought we were just doing movies. I've got an excellent one for a video game one, but I'll go over some of them. I think some folk kind of misunderstood the question, but I didn't really go through it in detail. But let's see. So, Chris Catherine suggested John Carter, which, to be fair, even though it only had one movie, I loved that movie. Actually, I downloaded that movie yesterday so I could rewatch it just because I remember going to the cinema and absolutely loving it. And then I remember reading as all the reviews came out, and it was like at the time like Disney's biggest ever bomb, and I was just like so sad. But I've never read any of the books or the comics. But based on that one movie, and the whole kind of story, I'd say it deserves another crack. And given the franchise, given how big it is, I'd say it probably will get another crack at some point.
There was like a series planned, was there not? They were going to do sequels, right? And then that one bombed.
TV show? Well, I know.
The movie.
I think that was a kicking off point, but I think after that they were just like, we're done. Like this is it's not getting revisited. But it's Disney; they'll bring everything back.
They were hoping for like a new Pirates of the Caribbean type series, I think, and it just didn't happen. I've actually not seen it, the film. So
no,
I don't know anything about
it. Who's the lead guy again?
Is it Taylor Kitsch?
Aye. Because at the time he was the next big thing, and even though he's pretty famous. Like I think at that point they expected him to be a lot bigger, and that was the movie that was going to kick it off, and it never worked for him, sadly. Just like the guy that was in Tron Legacy, Jared, I can never remember his surname, but that was supposed to be his big kind of kick-off movie, and then I loved Tron Legacy. I loved the soundtrack as well, but it wasn't meant to be. But then they did the animated series, but now they're talking about they're going to do a third movie at some point, so I think that will come back. Michael Lennox suggested V. Now, obviously, you've got the V for Vendetta TV show. Is that what he's talking about, V?
I think he's talking about, as I know, a series V where it was like aliens that came down and maybe abducted people. I don't really know anything about it, and they maybe like replaced people. They were like shapeshifters or some shit. I don't know.
Is it?
I've seen it.
I think there's like an older series a few decades ago called V, and then I think they tried to bring it back like 10 years ago, and I think it got cancelled. So I think that's what he's on about. I would love to see more. If he's talking about V for Vendetta, I'd love to see more of that in some form. But
yeah,
I think he means the other thing.
He's a wee bit more vintage than us, so I'd say he's probably going back a wee bit. Stephen Money, the Dark Universe, which I totally agree with. Like I love Tom Cruise, right? I think Tom Cruise is excellent, and I know he's batshit crazy, but I think if you watch a movie with Tom Cruise, you know at least it's going to be above average to excellent. Like Mission Impossible movies, love them. Live, Die, Kill, Repeat, love that. Oblivion, love that. And I just think he's gotten better as he's gotten older. Like he's just off his nut. I think he's excellent. But I love Dark Universe, and when they did the casting of all the other characters, I was like, right, they're fully into this, to the point where they'd actually opened up like a whole studio and they'd hired like a whole staff to like write all these movies. And then they just scrapped it all as soon as the movie bombed. I don't even think it bombed that badly. It's just, it didn't do what they expected it to. But then obviously they would have had an issue down the line, because I think Johnny Depp was supposed to be
the Invisible Man. Yeah.
I was way up for that, yeah.
That would have been a headache for them eventually.
But it was a brilliant cast. It was like Benicio del Toro and like mental cast.
It was excellent.
But I couldn't. I couldn't last the Mummy film. I watched 40 minutes and I had to tap out, man. Couldn't do it.
I liked it. I didn't. The whole female Mummy I thought was quite good. Like I enjoyed that, but then it was kind of. When I first watched it, I was like, "Oh, this is just like Terminator over again." But it's like, instead of having like a male antagonist, let's make her female. And at first, I was like, "Oh, this is going to be garbage." But then it actually turned out quite well. I think it was well done with the female Mummy.
I think they tried to go too far into the Brendan Fraser Mummy, which is like a totally separate thing. They went too action with it. And that immediately put me off of it. When I seen that Universal were making the Dark Universe, I was hoping it would be like the original Mummy.
Yeah, horror based.
I mean,
actually set in Egypt.
That's the best Mummy. Like that and Mummy 2, the Mummy 3. I don't even remember what happens in the third one. They did that. Was that just took too long after the first two? But I've not even seen it. Like no interest in it at all. But no, the first two were great, brilliant movies. Brendan Fraser's great. Like I've never seen anything that Brendan Fraser's been in that I've disliked.
Those Mummy films are like just on its own. They're so goofy, but like they're just so they're awesome. They're just so fun to watch. But I think when you try and put that in like a serious tone, it doesn't work.
Let's see. So Craig Gorman. We'll just rattle through these. He said Robocop, which I totally agree with. Even though I did like the reboot, that vision, that scene where like they take everything away from him, and he's basically just like a face and a brain and like half a lung or something like that. It's just like disturbing, but I enjoyed it. The Crow, which I think you had one good Crow movie, then like 25 sequels that nobody's seen and were garbage. Dread, which I totally agree with Dread.
I need that as a TV series.
That was rumoured, right? The TV series.
It was happening and then just went quiet. I have no idea what happened to it, unfortunately. But so somebody had mentioned Willow, but as far as I'm aware, Willow has been made as a Disney Plus TV show right now.
I'm not familiar with it.
Willow's
what's his name? Warwick Davis on it.
Aye, was it not? Was it not George Lucas?
Yeah, it was something to do with Lucas. Yeah.
Aye. The Goonies, which I thought yes, the Goonies, like, why has the Goonies of all the movies either never been revisited or never been, like, rebooted?
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's bizarre. Somebody, it was Kev. Kev said the Goonies with Sean Astin, etc., as the parents, which is just Stranger Things, to be honest.
Well,
Which
that's what I was
is,
going to say. That's the closest thing we've got. Yeah.
Aye, and this one, what you say, it's probably like before my time. The Last Starfighter. Any of you seen that?
Never
Nope.
heard of it.
No,
If it's
no.
before your time, I probably wasn't even born.
No.
So the Last Starfighter. No idea. I'll need to Wikipedia that and have a look at it. But I have some good suggestions. My suggestions would be Robocop, which had already been mentioned. I did say Back to the Future, but see, to be honest, when I think more about it, I was like, Michael J. Fox can't do it anymore because of Parkinson's and what's Doc's real name?
Christopher Lloyd.
Thanks, Ben.
Aye. He is really old. I'm sure he would jump at the chance.
He was good at Nobody.
He was. But I just think he's far too old, and it's like, do you reboot it? And I think it's just one of these franchises that should probably just be left.
Yeah.
Because I think any attempts to kind of revive it either just wouldn't be as good, or you would want some of the original characters to come back, and unfortunately, I think they're just either too old, or they're not capable anymore.
Yeah.
Do you not recast it at all then? No.
I mean, you could recast it, but I just don't think it would be as good as the originals.
I think did Robert Zemeckis not have a thing, like a clause in his contract that said he basically wouldn't, they can't remake it until he dies? Pretty sure.
God,
yeah. Potentially, aye, maybe that's why. So I was thinking Gremlins, but then I read up and they're actually making some kind of Gremlins sequel.
Nice.
Yeah. So there's those. Robocop, obviously I'd mentioned, but then when you said video game, I used to be obsessed with Command and Conquer. Did any of you ever play that?
Yeah, I remember it.
That was it. It was Westwood Studios, and then Westwood Studios went bankrupt in 2003-04, and EA went and bought them over, and have pretty much just messed up the franchise. They were going to release a new game, and they cancelled it, and it's just nothing's ever came of it. So that's what I'd say. I'd like to see that done.
Always
Robocop I'd like to see, just because, you know, you've had so many Terminator sequels and every single one of them have been garbage. I'd like to see that. Or
what form would you like to see Robocop? Like a TV show or a movie or a...
I'd like to see a movie, because why could you not bring the original actor back? Like, you don't see his face or anything like that, and if you do see his face, let's face it, even when you've seen it in the first three movies, it's like peeled back like plastic, so you could just put something over his face. Or, you know, you could do that old Terminator stuff where it's like real human tissue, so it ages like our tissue, so like, why not make him old? But no, I'd be totally up for like a Robocop sequel. The first two, like, I loved. The third one, not so much. But if Arnie can do it, then I don't see why they couldn't bring Robocop back. I'm just kind of worried that they'd maybe to kind of dial back on the violence, because I rewatched the first Robocop quite recently, and it is really violent. It's super violent, man.
Yeah, it's to get the melty guy and all that, and blowing his arms off at the start. I'm sure
I watched it when I was like 7 or something like that, and just the acid guy. Oh, that's disgusting. Help me! It's like pure brilliant.
So good. Peter Weller directs now as well, so if you don't bring him back as Robocop, they could always bring him back to direct. But I don't see why Peter Weller couldn't do it nowadays. He's still...
That reminds me of what was it, with the Punisher. I never seen any of the films, but was there not like a thing where there was almost like a independent Punisher film being made, and there was like a teaser for it, and it looked awesome?
So it was Thomas. So there was two Punisher movies. Well, there was three technically. So you had your Dolph Lundgren one, which obviously was terrible, but people watch it just for a laugh. And then you had your Thomas Jane one, which is when that was when Spider-Man had became successful in X-Men, so they were like, right, Punisher, Daredevil. Obviously, Daredevil flopped. Punisher did all right, because I think that was just after Spider-Man. That was Thomas Jane. It's not the worst movie, but you had like John Travolta as like the villain, who was like just pure over the top, and it didn't get a great reaction. But then they did a second movie, Warzone, where he was recast, and it was
Ray Stevenson.
Yes, and that was super violent compared to the first one, and people actually enjoyed the second one a lot better. But
I loved Warzone.
It didn't seem like a Marvel movie. Like it wasn't set in like the same shared universe or anything like that. It was just like a really kind of violent movie, and that was it. But it was a good movie, but that was it. But so Thomas Jane, I want to say it was 2012, maybe 2013, he did something called the Bootleg Universe, in conjunction with like some other director, where I think Ron Perlman's in it as well, for some reason. And basically, it's just like I think he was trying to float the idea of doing a sequel to his Punisher.
Yeah, Dirty Laundry, it's called, I think. And Ron Perlman is like the shop owner.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you're back in.
Yep. So he kind of floated that idea of doing like a really violent sequel, Dirty Laundry, I think it was called, and it just never got picked up. But it was the same time where they had floated like a Daredevil movie. It was based in like the 1970s, like New York, and it was like really kind of grim and gritty. And they done like a sizzle reel, and it was all kind of like parts of the Daredevil Ben Affleck movie, like kind of fight scenes from that, kind of mixed in with like other kind of stuff, gangster movies and stuff from that time, and it looked great. But then obviously it never got picked up, and they ended up giving it to Netflix in the end.
There's a lot of good short films online, man. That could be a topic worth doing. Yeah, because like you've got remember the violent Power Rangers thing they made, and they were getting their heads cut after that. That was quality. I didn't even like Power Rangers. I was like, that's quality. And I've done it a few more times with I don't know, there's like Star Wars ones and Batman ones and stuff in there as well.
There's all like it's that team Bat in the Sun. They do like a lot of the versus battles.
Yeah.
Like, I want to see films of them.
There's a Judge Dredd one as well. I'm sure there's a short film. Is it Judge Minty or something? That's pretty good.
So like we covered that. This is when the page first started. We covered that when that first kind of came out, and it was like a kind of like Clint Eastwood, but it's like it's a judge who's like he's getting on. He's not as fast or strong as he was and stuff, and it's like his kind of like last big hurrah. But no, it was quite cool. It was a good kind of fan movie at the time.
Dan, what about your choices?
Okay, so I've got a list.
Oh, he's got a list.
I actually wrote. I can't remember. I'm sure at one point I wrote an article, just before BGCP, just for shits and gigs. But I won't go through the whole thing. But I'll just fire out a few. Dino Crisis. Do you guys remember Dino Crisis on like PS1?
Yes.
It was the same guys. I'm sure it was Capcom. Same guys that made Resident Evil. So it was dinosaurs. I want to see that back.
What was the other dinosaur one? Was it Turok?
Yes, Turok. Yeah. That was good too.
I always confused the two of them.
That was a comic too, I'm sure. Turok. Alone in the Dark was an Argus series back in the day, horror series. What else? I've got Driver. You've ever played the Driver games?
Driver,
But I mean, these games, I just feel like they're right, man. See, for the new generation, if like Sony or Microsoft jumped on these and maybe bought the license, these could be like proper series.
Crazy Taxi, that would be excellent to bring back.
Aye, that would be a great game.
Twisted Metal. I think they tried to revive Twisted Metal a few years back, but that would be really good.
Yeah, it was a bit disappointing, I think. I've got Duke Nukem down, but I feel like in a post-Me Too world, that's probably not the best idea.
Was it before and it was like awful?
Yeah, that recent one that took like 20 years to make and it was garbage. Yeah. Siphon Filter, which was like Metal Gear. Yeah, that was good as well. You could tase guys till they went on fire. Guys. That's what I remember about it. And The Getaway. which was like a British gangster movie. It was like a Guy Ritchie film, but it was a game.
Oh, you reviewed that, didn't you?
No, it was a story I did. I think it's talking about. I think that there's a rumor that it's maybe being picked up.
Oh, getting a remaster, right? Okay, got you.
But that series was brilliant. I really liked that series. If you're into like Snatch and Lock, Stock and stuff, it was basically that, but it was a game. It's cool.
What about? I'm surprised they've never done this, given how popular it was for the original PlayStation. But do you remember Soul Reaver?
Yeah, that was I think also on my list, but I just got past it. But yeah, what a series that was.
No idea why they've never tried to bring it back. Like, because I think it went to the PlayStation, maybe the PlayStation 2, and then they just stopped.
They did. No, there was a cancelled game because they made like the Soul Reaver games, right? And then they made, I think it was the Legacy of Kain, and it was like the vampire.
Legacy of Kain,
and that was was like a spin-off. They were going to make another Kain game for PS3, and it was like 70% done, and then for some reason they like sacked everybody in the studio shut, and it never happened. But there's trailers. There's been like trailers leaked by developers and stuff you can find online. It looked brilliant.
Oh, is
sucks it never happened, young. But yeah.
I'm so young.
See, it's crap because man, video games are really bad for that. Like, see if there was a movie and it was like 80% done, they would just finish it and put it out. But there's so many games that have like this old franchises that they've been trying to make a sequel or a reboot, and it's no worked, and then it just disappears. So it's just cancelled. And you're like,
I mean, I wish we got look at New Mutants. Like New Mutants was sitting ready from like 2017, and then obviously when like Disney bought it over, that was the last of the Fox X-Men movies to be released. But they were like, "This is rubbish. Let's just like chop it up and edit it to make it better." And I think it must have. It was a terrible movie, to be fair. So I don't know how bad it must have been originally if they had to like try and edit it. And they sat on that for 3 years, over 3 years, and it's like surely if it was done, like just market it as best as you can and get it out, or like give it to Disney and fire it on Disney Plus. And you know what? Maybe a few million people watching it, and go, "Oh, great! Like a new movie!" And it turns out to be crap. At least you'll get that pop of like the first few million viewers instead of try to get people to buy it. Why would you want to buy a movie that's been like put off for like nearly 3 years and there's nobody recognizable?
That was a weird decision.
It became overhyped as well. Just like people were so excited every year for it to come out, and it just didn't.
Because it was going to be their kind of like horror movie. It wasn't like your stereotypical X-Men movie. It was going to be a horror movie, and I don't remember. I remember them fighting the bear at the end, and that's it. Just it's sad because like some of the actors and actresses they had in it were like obviously there's that girl
Maisie Williams.
No, the other girl who played Magic. She did that.
Taylor Joy.
Yes, I think she's going to be huge soon. Like, obviously, did that movie with Netflix, and then she's got the Edgar Wright movie coming out. And I think she's like in the next few years. I think she's like going to be massive. So there's her, and then obviously you've got like Maisie Williams. I think she'll do well for her kind of herself post Game of Thrones. But it's just a shame because New Mutants is a great book, especially that time period that they were trying to capture. And the Demon Bear is like a great story, but they just totally missed it. And but that's kind of like Fox's farewell to the X-Men universe, and they totally messed it up. So I'm just glad that Disney has the characters and the team back.
Aye, definitely. Sorry, Ben, have you got suggestions for franchises?
Yeah, I had two. So the first one I had was, and it's already been brought up, it was the Dark Universe. I also had it, it could either be the Hammer Horror franchise as well, but not to be done in that kind of cinematic universe way.
Right.
I'd instead like to be seen it done as a kind of like The Lighthouse, depending on what you thought of that film. Like very classic and very minimalistic. I loved it. I'd love to see like a Dracula. I'm going to turn up my hand. Yeah.
I liked it, but I don't know why I liked it. Like The Lighthouse, like I don't know why. I
thought it was the most pretentious shite I've ever seen in my life, man. When he turned into a mermaid at the end and stuff, and
so
it was too much. And I like weird stuff. I do like weird films, but that was just shite.
I think it's just William Dafoe. I think anything that William Dafoe is in is just I can't stop watching him. I think he's just a pure
so
captivating actor, but then he's just got this crazy rubber face as well.
Yeah.
We'll come back to him. I was actually having a slightly hungover conversation. You know, you have like a big party and you wake up in the morning and you just talk about the weirdest stuff. Well, it randomly came up to William Dafoe and how he was potentially coming back to the Spider-Man movies, but also then about the original Mask as well. So we'll go back to that as well.
We'll go for it.
Cool.
So that was my first one. The other one I thought was I'd love to see Planet of the Apes kind of revised.
Okay.
So the kind of Caesar trilogy we had there was incredible. Loved it. It's not Planet of the Apes, so it's its own thing.
Yeah.
I want to see like a modern day version of the Statue of Liberty in the sand.
Yeah.
I want to see that done.
I think a lot of the thinking during that trilogy was they were going to continue it and bring you up to the Charlton Heston stage. But I've got the feeling that now that Matt Reeves is doing Batman, he's probably done with Planet of the Apes. So if they do continue it, I mean, it is a big franchise and it's a big IP, I guess. But I think if they do continue it, they're going to need to bring in another kind of creative driving force.
Get Tim Burton back.
Let's just get Mark Wahlberg back. I mean, it ended and set it up for a sequel. I loved that movie. I don't know why nobody liked it.
Oh, good. I'm with you, Ian. It's such a guilty pleasure. I love it.
These guys are weird.
But I used to. I mean, that was out in like 2001, and I used to. I probably had it on VHS at one point and then DVD, and I used to watch it all the time. And then it was only years later where it's like Tim Burton's like terrible like franchise or terrible like Planet of the Apes and Mark Wahlberg, and I'm like, whoa, who's calling this terrible? Like, I haven't been under the assumption it was a great movie. I've been like counting the days for a sequel, and it's only when you kind of rewatch it you're like, I can get why people disliked it, but then obviously it's
the same as the Brendan Fraser like mummy film. It's just fun. Like
I check out
when the ending comes.
I check out when Mark Wahlberg kisses Monkey Helena Bonham Carter. That's when I'm like, this just went too far.
That's why you failed, Daniel.
You
don't know what comes after that.
Can't get past that. No, is it not Monkey? Is it not Monkey blinking at the end in the big chair?
Aye, because he crashes and it's like cops, but they're like ape cops and stuff. I'm like, what? I've no idea what's happening here, but I'm interested. Like, let's get a sequel going. I'm gonna go tweet him right now for the BGCP page, and I'll be like, look, Mark, when are we getting this sequel?
Back to Tim Burton. Stop making shite Alice in Wonderland films and come and make Planet of the Apes.
So I had that as a subcategory actually. Like, I'd love to see like an actual adaptation of Alice in Wonderland,
like a good one.
Yeah, basically, like one that actually tells the story of Alice in Wonderland.
And that's the thing, that is a really dark story, and it's never really been told in that way. It's always like kid friendly. Let Guillermo do it. Let Guillermo del Toro make a trippy, dark. No, I mean, I'd be into that. Aye.
Of course, yeah. That's the only kind of two I had.
Is that us full with franchises? I'm trying to think of anything else, but
there's plenty of Tim Burton movies I think that could be revisited. Like Edward Scissorhands, but then you've got so much associated with Johnny Depp that there's not a lot of people willing to touch him these days, and rightly so. Like, I'm no like an Amber Heard supporter or anything like that. I think both of them were in the wrong, but he's too risky now for box office. It's like, do you cast him in this huge movie, and then you've got a percentage of the audience don't want to go see him because they believe the allegations or whatnot. I think
the thing also with Johnny Depp, he's not quite in like Kevin Spacey territory. He's still, I think his career's still salvageable, and I think if he has, maybe if he waits, maybe take a few years out and then come back with like a big hit, he could recover. I think. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think he needs to stop drinking and doing drugs. To be honest, like, just go out, try and do some good movies, like basically show that he's try fix being an arsehole, because I know that people love him and there's movies that I love, but the guy is an arsehole. like, I think it's well proven, and anybody that says that he isn't, he just tries to essentially sue them and keep them quiet. I mean, he was basically trying to like sue the people that were responsible for keeping his money, and he was like, why am I skint? And it's like, because you spend like £40,000 a month on wine. You took Hunter S. Thompson's ashes and spent like $1.5 million shooting them into space. Like, he wastes. He's so wasteful in terms of that money, and he's ended up having Pirates of the Caribbean took off him, which is. That was probably his meal ticket for the rest of his days. That franchise, and given the royalties, he'll be able to live off that for years and years and years. But I mean, I was just going to say, like, what was the last Tim Burton movie that you actually seen that you enjoyed? And likewise for Johnny Depp, like every Johnny Depp movie that I've seen in the last few years ago, this looks really good. This looks brilliant. Like Black Mass, and
that was going to be mine. I quite like Black Mass.
Did you ever see The Professor?
No.
Mm-mm.
That's a really good one. He's struggling with cancer, and he just goes in a total nihilistic binge. He doesn't get the treatment for it. He just goes, "Here's my lasting days, and I'm just going to live." And it's a really nice film.
There was another one. It was it Transcendence or something like that, where he basically puts his eye, and again looks amazing, and just didn't hit the mark.
Yeah, that was crap.
I've never seen any of the Fantastic Beasts movie. I'm no a Harry Potter fan, so I've always
do yourself a favour and just don't.
I've always avoided them, but I think a lot of people obviously liked them in that because there was that kind of uproar when he got removed for it. But it's been a while since he had something out that I liked.
I'd check out The Professor. That came out a couple of years ago, and I loved it. I'm a big Johnny Depp man.
Here's a hot take. I don't really like Tim Burton. Like, even classic Tim Burton, I've never been into Edward Scissorhands or any of that stuff. I've never, and I know he's like this kind of iconic legendary filmmaker, but I can't, like, nah, not for me.
What year were you born, Daniel?
95.
See, I'd say he's like, I think he's like in the 90s. Like, I remember watching most of the movies in the 90s. Now, if you were only kind of getting to the point of watching movies come like 1989, 2000, then you probably missed out on watching them at the time. So I think it's more it's a product of when you were around, and you watch them now and you're just like, these are ridiculous. But I think most of the movies you've just got kind of soft spot because you remember watching them when you were younger. Now you look at them and you're like, this is garbage. And then you go to his more recent stuff and you're like, this is like really, really garbage.
Don't get me wrong, like, I do think the 90s was a brilliant decade for filmmakers, but like nowadays you can go back and watch a 90s David Fincher film or a 90s Quentin Tarantino film and it's still great. Whereas you go back to a Tim Burton film and it just doesn't do it for me. But
Daniel, before you finish, I've got 3 biographies about Tim Burton and I'm a huge fan. Basically, he's my life.
No, that's fine, man. Like what you like, but I've just never been into him, man.
What about Batman and Batman Returns?
Get that revised. I want a third one.
I like Jack Nicholson's Joker.
Love it.
I like Christopher Walken in Batman Returns. Other than that, I can take them or leave them.
Yeah.
What about Danny DeVito and his penguin hands? Like
superb.
I love Danny DeVito, but nah, no for me, mate. No.
I'd love to see Danny DeVito now, like dressed back up as the Penguin. That would be amazing.
You would probably do it as well, man.
It's a toss up between Batman and Batman Returns on what my favourite Batman film is.
Really?
Honestly, yeah, I totally love them. Jack Nicholson's incredible. Like, he is the Joker. Michael Keaton is Batman for me, and Michelle Pfeiffer. Like, everyone like goes like, "Oh, it's a bit too weird, that film," and like, the stuff Michelle Pfeiffer did in that film is incredible, like Oscar worthy.
The thing is, though, I do feel like Tim Burton is kind of to blame for those 4 films going in the direction of Batman and Robin, like the Joel Schumacher route, because the first one was kind of grounded and kind of just gothic Gotham from the comics, maybe a wee bit Tim Burtonized. The second one was like, no, this is a Tim Burton film. This isn't a Batman film. This is a Tim Burton movie. And then after he left, it was like they came in and went, right, let's make it more Tim Burton now that he's gone. Let's have Jim Carrey and like all this weird Two-Face stuff, and it just went off the deep end.
That's the opposite of Tim Burton.
I know. I remember. I think it was Schumacher that was told like they want to go back to the kind of cheesiness of like Adam West, but they still wanted to kind of keep it almost quite kind of gothic because it was like it was the same character. They just recast Batman, and then Val Kilmer was like, "No, I'm done doing Batman." They recast him again, which is bizarre. Just like like recast twice and you don't even blink because it's a movie, a Batman movie.
Yeah.
But I remember seeing the Jim Carrey and Tommy Lee Jones movie in the cinema, and I loved it at the time. But it's like each Batman movie always seems to be like it's just like a different era, like Batman. So like Michael Keaton Batman was like 80s. I'd say like Val Kilmer and George Clooney were like very 90s and just kind of like over the top. Like I'm sure if it would have been a comic at the time, they would have had like pouches and guns, bat nipples, and then when it came back to like round to like Christian Bale, I know it's kind of supposed to be like year one, but his is more kind of like realistic, more kind of like modern day Batman than kind of over the top cheesiness, say like the 80s and 90s. And then Ben Affleck, I don't even know where Ben Affleck's just an Elseworld, like a Batman that just doesn't take crap and shoots people.
Punisher Batman.
Aye. I don't know where Robert Pattinson's Batman will fall under though. I don't really know. That's why I'm kind of interested.
That kind of looks like I'd almost say that looks like an almost 50s kind of Batman. And that if you were to take like a David Fincher Batman story and put it in a gangster-ridden kind of Gotham.
Well, I think what they said was they kind of wanted to be timeless like the animated series, but they're obviously also taking a lot from Long Halloween and what was the sequel called again? Can't remember, the one that he gets Robin. But yeah, those two stories are kind of I think what's going to be adapted, and those are very Tim Sale's art is very like kind of gothic mid-century kind of inspired. So yeah,
I'll convert you one day to the goth side, Dan.
I like The Crow. I do. I don't mind a goth movie. It's just Tim Burton, man. I just can't. So with that all said, should we move on to the news stuff?
Yes,
Ian mentioned his Green Goblin thing. I don't know if you want to open with that.
Let's go for it.
Yeah. So after a few weeks ago, they were saying like, you're going to have your Dr. Octopus coming back from Spider-Man 2. We're having Jamie Foxx come back from Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man, but he's not playing the same Electro. He's going to be a different Electro. And then what they said was William Dafoe has not been on set. He is not coming back. And suddenly it's dropped that he's going to be the main villain, which to be fair, I'd say out of all the Spider-Man movies, he was the best. Just excellent. But I don't know. It seems like they're going to do the Sinister Six, but it's not going to be like a Sinister Six. It's going to be a Sinister Six from different dimensions. So I think it's Doctor Strange is involved in it somehow, where I think essentially these villains are escaping from whatever world they're from, and Spider-Man and Doctor Strange have to essentially round them up. But there's too many of them for just the two of them, so let's bring in Tobey Maguire. Let's bring in Andrew Garfield, even though Andrew Garfield made a point to say that he has not been called and he is not involved. And of course he's going to be involved because his movie was only out like 6-7 years ago. So I think it'll be good to see Tobey Maguire because Tobey Maguire has pretty much disappeared from movies. I think he'd done a bit of directing, but the last movie I remember seeing him in was Jake Gyllenhaal, a movie called Brothers, but that was like 2012, 13 maybe.
He was in that Great Gatsby film. I think that was around then as well, wasn't it?
Oh yes,
aye. So he was, aye. But he's probably my favourite Peter Parker, and even though like I see him now and he's like, he looks about 40, even like the year 2000. that was my Peter Parker, I suppose. But I think everybody that's been cast always said that Tobey Maguire was like a great Peter Parker, while Andrew Garfield was like a really good Spider-Man, and like Tobey Maguire was just too cool to be Peter Parker. I always thought, like, just kind of jumping about with a skateboard, standing up to bullies, and you're like, that's not what Peter Parker's all about. Like,
Andrew Garfield's hair was too cool.
Aye, he was too cool in general. I thought he was an excellent Spider-Man. I think his kind of one-liners and his jokes were far better than Tobey Maguire's. But Tom Holland is a good mix of both. I think he's maybe like too cool and popular as like Peter Parker, but like as a Spider-Man, I think he's an excellent Spider-Man, and I think the way he bounces about and like kind of interacts with other characters, like other heroes, I think he's really good. But then Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield never had a chance to do that. It was just, solo movies they had. So I'm looking forward to seeing them back. But William Dafoe is the main villain. I think it would be excellent. I just hope that they don't bring back that horrendous costume and they have it as maybe because obviously he died. Like, Godspeed, Spider-Man. But I think they could have a different version of William Dafoe in a different world where he became the Green Goblin and he never died. And I think they should use the unused mask. If you look at the group chat, I've put a picture of it. But it was like kind of animatronic. That's but then they put just like a Green Goblin helmet. They put it over one, like a guy that has probably the most rubber face.
Who looks like that mask already.
Besides Jim Carrey, I think William Dafoe would be excellent. Like, if you could see his expressions and stuff like that, it'd be so good. So hopefully they bring him back. Obviously, there's no chance of his movie son making a return since he's now been cancelled. He was terrible anyway. Yeah. But then there was the Green Goblin from the Andrew Garfield movies. I always forget that. Yes. Such a shame because I thought he was going to be huge. See, after Chronicle, like, I thought that was an excellent movie. And Anthony got cast in after that. It just seemed like he was miscast. I would have liked to have seen him become the Green Goblin, but they tacked him into like Spider-Man 2, which already had like two villains already. Yeah. You had Rhino, and then you had Electro, and then the last 5 minutes you just get like Green Goblin tossed in there as well. So I'm all down for them bringing back the best kind of villains of all. How many movies they had now? 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. This is going to be the 8th Spider-Man movie. Just bring back the best. And are they going to toss in Tom Hardy somehow? Are they going to bring in Morbius? Because they're talking that they're going to have a Sony universe, and then they're also going to have a shared MCU Sony universe. So there'll be movies where specifically like Spider-Man is going to be part of Marvel because that's what they're interested in, but they're no against having MCU characters show up in Spider-Man's movies, like the Vulture being in Morbius. Don't know what that means for, like Venom and Carnage. Are they going to have Venom and Carnage interact with Spider-Man eventually? Or, it's so it's interesting times, but I think DC kind of opened this up with like the whole Flashpoint thing when they did the TV show crossover where they had like some of the old kind of movie actors and stuff, like Burt Ward come back, and everybody went mental for it. And then obviously DC announced the Flashpoint where like Michael Keaton was coming back, and you've seen the amount of people that went crazy for that. So I think Marvel's probably just went, right, multiverse, let's just like blow it open and we'll bring back everybody. Like, bring back Hugh Jackman. I want to see Hugh Jackman come back.
I think with the Spider-Man stuff, I think Emma Stone has said that she's not returning. My kind of feeling is I don't mind if they want to use the old actors as different versions of the characters, like a new Willem Dafoe Green Goblin, a new Jamie Foxx Electro. But I don't think you can have that and also have Tobey Maguire as the same Spider-Man for the Raimi trilogy. I feel like that would be a bit confusing. I think either use the old actors and make them new characters, or just do the multiverse thing and bring in the old versions of the characters. I think try to do both is kind of try to have your cake and eat it. I don't know.
Do you mean like Ghostbusters remake them, where they're there but they're different characters?
Yeah.
I mean, you could do it with the animated universe, where like basically they bring in like Peter Parker, but he's just got blonde hair, and then you bring in like a different version of Peter Parker, and he's just got a fat belly. Like bring in Tobey Maguire, where he's maybe like scarred, and he's like a pure, like a post-apocalyptic version of like Peter Parker or something. Just
that's the thing as well, because Into the Spider-Verse is a Sony product, isn't it?
Yeah. It's Sony film because it's Lord and Miller.
So is that going to maybe play into it as well? Are we going to get the Spider-Verse in it?
I mean, I have no doubt we're going to see Miles Morales at some point in one of these films because he's a huge character there now, so that's going to happen. Talking about the Amazing Spider-Man 2, though, I don't know, I wrote a review for the game for the website. You thought the movie had too many villains. The game's got like Sandman, and I think Rhino's in it. But not that same version of Rhino, and Mysterio. Yeah, it's nuts, man. That game's insane.
So good.
Yeah, so other than that, what happened this week? A fair amount actually did. I've got something here that will rock Alan Todd to his core, and that is that Zack Snyder's King Arthur film is apparently going to take place in the Wild Wild West. Unfortunately, it doesn't seem to be a spin-off of the Will Smith film Wild Wild West, but yeah, that's Zack Snyder's next project. Speaking of the guy, did you watch Army of the Dead? And what do you what did you think? If you did,
yeah, I was disappointed.
Yeah.
I mean, I loved this Dawn of the Dead remake, but it was just very boring. Like I couldn't tune in and watch all of it. I think it was a great opening sequence, as movies always do have. But I really like Batista. Obviously, I'm a wrestling fan as well, but I just found none of the characters were great. They were all quite unlikable.
Yeah, I didn't care about any of them. Yeah.
So no, disappointing. I think they released it just basically off the back of all the hype for the Justice League. That's why it came out just a few months after it, and they rid that wave. And then obviously he's now gone on about this Wild Wild West King Arthur movie, and he's also banging on about the Star Wars movie that never happened. But then he's saying that
so much Zack Ryder,
he's going to take the Star Wars movie and just call it a different name, basically. So I don't know. I like Zack Snyder, but it didn't do it for me, unfortunately.
I feel like now that Zack Snyder's free of the DC stuff, he's just gone mental. He's like, right, let's do a zombie film, let's do a Star Wars film, let's do a Wild Wild West King Arthur. It's just I can do it now, so I'll just do everything.
And it's all going to be 2.5 hours long, and you're going to love it.
Yeah, and it's all going to have lots of weird focus and soft lenses, and yeah.
The thing is, if DC don't want him, somebody will snap him up. Look at James Gunn. As soon as James Gunn was cancelled for a wee while, DC didn't spend waste any time in signing him up for the Suicide Squad, and then Marvel were like, you know what, we'll take you back. Come do Guardians of the Galaxy. You're uncancelled.
Yeah, that was a weird scenario. But I don't know, man. I'll check out a Wild Wild West King Arthur. I liked Guy Ritchie's King Arthur from a few years ago. It was weird, and it wasn't really a King Arthur film, but I can enjoy that.
Was that the kind of child one?
No, it was a Charlie Hunnam one. It was kind of like Snatch, but it was King Arthur. It was weird.
I thought it was terrible. I watched Guy Ritchie's most recent movie, Wrath of Man, with Jason Statham the other night.
I watched it last night.
Really enjoyed it. Loved it.
I thought it was alright. I think I was kind of expecting, because it was Statham again, I thought this is going to be like one of his early films. It's not at all, but it was still quite good. It's alright.
I know it didn't feel like a Guy Ritchie movie, but no, I really enjoyed it. I watched Cruella last night.
I've heard really good things about it.
It was good. Emma Stone's great. When I seen she was saying she wasn't coming back for Spider-Man, I was like, is she not coming back, or is that just there's a cat in the background? Ben, you've got a rogue cat in the background there.
He's escaped.
But then why not bring back Kirsten Dunst?
Well, I love that.
So in terms of other news this week, I wrote an article about the Far Cry 6 review. I don't know if you guys call it that or care about
I
that.
haven't seen it yet. No.
I'm not forward to it. It's got Giancarlo Esposito, who is everywhere now, which I don't think Andy's complaining about because he's brilliant.
From what I've seen of it, I just seen like a gif of him like lighting a cigarette or something, and my only thoughts on it were like, we're in that weird uncanny valley territory now with similar to Love, Death and Robots. I can't tell how much of it is real and how much of it is like CGI.
Yeah,
it's getting too creepy now.
Yeah, no, I think it was great. I think the fictional setting, I think, is a good idea because the last time they went to America and it was kind of disappointing. I also think they've kind of been on a wee bit of a downward kind of climb with their villains because like Vass was incredible, then Pagan Min was fine, and then the Mad Preacher guy for the last one was just kind of annoying. So I think the fact that they've managed to bag like one of the hottest villains in Hollywood now between like Breaking Bad and Mandalorian and everything else, the boys. I think bringing Giancarlo is a good shout. I think people will get on board with that. And the gameplay looks fun too.
Has there been any kind of story towards it yet? I'm unfamiliar with it.
There's this made up island. It's basically Cuba, but it's called like Yara or something. And you play this character Danny something. I'll post the article below if you want to read that. But you can play male or female. It's a Far Cry game. You can take over outposts. You can craft weapons. And Giancarlo Esposito was this dictator, and you need to kill him and his family and take the island back and save the people. And it's a Far Cry game. I mean, you've seen it all before, but
it's Minecraft, but for adults.
But no, man, I'm into it. I think it was good. There's a few other trailers. There was a trailer for the new Horizon game, which I don't know if you guys care about. I played the first one, and it was just got really old after a while. You could only kill so many big robot dinosaurs before it's like the novelty wears off.
That wasn't like the big open space one where like you'd keep like finding like infinite planets, was it?
No, that's No Man's Sky you're thinking of.
No Man's Sky.
Yeah, that was another shit show. But I'm actually thinking about doing a review for that at some point, but we'll see. Yeah, so
take a drink every time Dan says he's got a review on an article or something.
I know I've not been doing it.
You can hold off. You're hungover.
I've not been doing it as much this week actually. We have mentioned a few things. I think the only thing I've done is the Amazing Spider-Man game. But other than that, there was a trailer for Dying Light 2, which again I found the first one a bit disappointing. There's a review for the first Dying Light on the website, which I found to be a wee bit disappointing. But there's a second one coming out, and do you know what? A zombie free running game, sure. Let's give that a go. Why not?
I'm blaming Zack Ryder for this like revival of zombie films again.
The thing is, man, I think zombies were like talk about the first Dawn of the Dead film. That was kind of when they had their kind of first big popular after like the George A. Romero stuff. That was when they kind of broke into pop culture again. And then I think people did get sick of them after like The Walking Dead, like season 6ish. Everybody was sick of zombies, but it seems to be again. Oh, here we go! Like let's do another resurgence of zombie media, which it is what it is. I mean, I feel like there's only so much you can do in the genre, but there we go. Have we got any other news that we want to cover?
Well, there was a couple of other trailers. There was the Eternals trailer that came out.
Yep. What did you think?
So that's probably the first Marvel trailer that I've ever watched and just had no interest in it at all. It just looked boring. Like they've never been a great comic. Any comic I remember, like them ever kind of bringing them back or trying to revive them, a bit like the kind of Inhumans. It just ends up being cancelled, and I'd say they're scraping the barrel, but there's still so many Marvel characters like Nova, for example, that they have not touched, and I'm like, why are they going to this? Like, surely there's so many other characters that they could attempt to do, like Daredevil, Punisher, bring them back, recast them, but like, why are they going to characters like this already? It's so I'll watch it, but unless they bring out another trailer that like catches me, it just for a Marvel movie, it just looked boring.
I've only read one Eternals run, and my memory of it was the covers were really nice. The covers were good. That was my takeaway for that run. So yeah, I agree they're not very memorable characters. But what I'm thinking when I watch the trailer is they better have a bloody good reason for no showing up during the Thanos stuff. Like, what he's doing. They better have a good reason for that shit. That will grind my gears if they don't.
So I'm on the flip side for me. Like, I watched the trailer a bunch of times and I was like, I'm like, this is fresh. Like, I'm really into this because it's like it doesn't have that America kind of like big explosions and big like superpower action scenes. And I know that's Marvel. That's kind of what they're good for. But I also watched Nomadland last night,
Yeah.
and I didn't think I was going to enjoy it, but I loved it.
Right.
I loved how like just based in reality it was. It was just there wasn't really much of a story going on. It was just living like a life and like very agricultural.
Yeah.
And I can see that in this one with Chloe Zhao because she's directing this one.
Yeah.
So it looks like almost like we're just going to have these godlike people or godlike heroes come to this planet, and they're just going to like look after things. And there's something quite nice about that. I'm kind of done with big action scenes, big CGI superhero fights. I kind of want to see like a more character driven stuff.
Listen, I like the cast and the cinematography looks good,
Yeah,
so I hope it's good. But we'll see. I'm going to go and see it. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, of course. That's the one takeaway. We'll all see it.
Yeah.
I remember when they announced Guardians of the Galaxy, and I went, "Why? Like a total Z list kind of superhero team at the time." I thought they cast a bunch of people. I'm like, right, it's got a good cast, but like it's going to bomb. As soon as the trailer came out, like I was hooked, and then the movie came out, loved it. Second one, not so much. Like I think it was a bit of a retread, but like. So I trust Marvel to cast like good characters and put out good movies. They have the occasional. I'm sure it'll be all right. I'm sure they'll prove me wrong. But for the first trailer, I was massively underwhelmed. But we'll see. It looks to be different from your usual Marvel movies, which is that's the whole Marvel. You've got that whole kind of cosmic side that they've kind of went into, but not like fully yet. So I think that's kind of. The cosmic universe, you'll have Guardians, you'll have Thanos, eventually you'll have Galactus, Silver Surfer, and obviously you can tie them into it as well. But I'm eager to see it just for it to like prove me wrong. But just based on the first trailer, I'm just like, give me something more. Give me a second trailer where you actually see, because all it is I don't remember there wasn't really any action scenes of where you actually got to see them use powers. It was just kind of them standing about, gazing into the
there's
the
a few quick cuts,
stuff.
but yeah, that's all.
I think the whole idea is that they're like a peaceful kind of team. They're not really the ones that are in the fight. They're the ones that are kind of fixing stuff after the fight or like creating stuff before the fight.
I really wish they. Oh, sorry. I'm just going to say I really wish they hadn't messed the Inhumans up because I think this could be where they brought the Inhumans in instead of like bringing that. But then they've just totally because Inhumans was supposed to be a movie, and then they scrapped it for a TV show, and then they obviously did the whole IMAX tie-in, and then they just brought out an absolute crap TV show. And I love the Inhumans. I think Black Bolt is excellent, and they messed it up so badly.
Blackagar Boltigan.
Silly, man.
And a big transporting dog and bad CGI. And the hair. They cut Medusa's hair off, right?
Aye, because it was so much effort to CGI like her moving hair. So like end of the first episode, they just shave her balds, and it's like, well, that's that done. Because it looked great up until that point, and then obviously you had a big Lockjaw, the big teleporting dog, which was excellent.
But expensive.
So just I don't know if we were going to go over this, but just on the whole point of Sony and William Dafoe, Kraven the Hunter being cast.
Yes.
Bizarre choice, given that he's already played Quicksilver, and Sony's going to be doing the MCU, but then I think once they cast Quicksilver in WandaVision, they're like, who cares? Like,
that to me screams like they don't care about trying to line things up. But then you've also got them trying to bring Michael Keaton into the Morbius film, and you're like, well, what do you want? What are you trying to do here? Like, it's just honestly, it pisses me off at this point. I wish they would just give the characters to Disney and just be done with it. Just take the billions and let people who know what they're doing do something with Venom and Morbius and shit. What are you trying to salvage at this point? Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't know.
But then Sony's cast him, and I kind of think it's like a reaction to everybody going on about Quicksilver and WandaVision, where some folk wanted him to come back, and obviously Marvel didn't do it, so he's dead, and they're not bringing him back to the MCU. So Sony's went, well, we can bring him into Sony because it's our movie, so let's cast him as Kraven the Hunter. I think it'll be good because last I remember, he was pretty bulky. Like he'd like obviously puts his time in the gym, but the last movie I remember him seeing doing was with John Cena, like 2014-15 maybe, where they play like a couple of soldiers that are like pinned down by a sniper, and like the full movie is basically them like hiding behind a wall for like pretty much the majority of the movie. And then obviously did that Godzilla reboot, the first kind of movie to reboot with Bryan Cranston before he did Age of Ultron. But like from Kick-Ass and stuff like that to like Age of Ultron, like he seems like he was going to become like the next big thing, and then he just went really quiet, and now he's been cast as Kraven the Hunter. So
he was good. He was good on Tenet recently. I liked Tenet. Yeah.
Oh right, I've not watched that yet because I think it just looks garbage. So I didn't know he was in that. Right, okay, right. Yeah. So I mean, maybe his comeback's already started and I just missed it.
It's a small role, but like he's a character in it. Yeah.
No,
I think he's great. I think he'll be brilliant as Kraven. I just think he'll maybe need to put on an extra like stone or two of muscle because like Kraven, I always just picture. Obviously, he's never been a live action character, but he's like the peak of kind of It depends. Like like in the cartoons and stuff and the books, he takes like a serum to like make him like super strong. So I don't know whether they'll go down that route in the movie, but he is massive. So I think he'll need to put on a fair bit of muscle to play him. Good casting, so I'm all for it. Like he's a good actor. I've always wanted to see Kraven Hunter as well, so I'm all for it.
But my question is, how did he do that without having a Spider-Man? How did he do just a Kraven film?
Well, then it's not just a Kraven movie. Like I kind of thought it would be like the next Spider-Man movie is going to be Kraven as the villain, like because a Kraven movie. Unless it's just a movie about him being a villain, it's a bit like the Cruella movie, where you kind of find it really hard to be sympathetic towards her, and it's like it's an origin movie, but like she is not a nice person generally, but it kind of explains why she's not a nice person. But Kraven's essentially like a big game hunter, and I don't know. I know one big story, and it's like where Kraven dies, and like he tries to bury Spider-Man, the last hunt, the final hunt. I can't remember the name of it now, but he's a good character. But I just don't know how you would do a movie with him alone. Maybe like a Sinister Six movie. You could go down the whole kind of Suicide Squad like kind of style movie, but I don't think it will be for a solo movie. I think it will be as part of Sinister Six or like just a main villain is for the Spider-Man movie, or maybe he's going to like show up in the Spider-Man 3 movie at some point just as a cameo, and then they'll bring him in down the line. I don't know.
Hold on, did you know Danny Sokovia? But I think the only way they could do like a solo film, like you mentioned The Last Hunt. In The Last Hunt, the whole thing is like he's hunted on this other dangerous game, and Spider-Man is like the most dangerous prey that he's going to hunt. So I guess you could show him doing everything else up to that point, like hunting other superheroes or hunting other people, and then eventually, it could lead into a film where they probably won't get Spider-Man back. But yeah,
are we just getting like a line of like origin films where villains like kill animals with like Cruella and the Dalmatians, and then we're getting Kraven just hunting animals?
What you trying to say, Disney? Oh, that's just Sony, but yeah.
Still, I don't know much about Kraven the Hunter. I've only seen him from like the original animated series, and like when I seen he was cast as him, I was just like, that doesn't fit. I don't know. That doesn't fit.
He seems a bit young because like Kraven the Hunter in the comics has like a whole family. He has like a wife. He has like 2 sons. He has a daughter, and that's eventually how he gets resurrected. Because I think he was dead for maybe 20 years, and like it was like legacy villains where like his daughter was the main villain and his sons were the villain, but then eventually they went to sacrifice Spider-Man to bring back Kraven the Hunter, and instead of sacrificing Spider-Man, they actually sacrificed Kane, who was like the one of the clones of Spider-Man. He eventually became Scarlet Spider, but because his blood was like it was not pure, they brought back like Kraven Hunter's son, but he was like a kind of human lion hybrid, like this big kind of monster. But they resurrected him eventually, but because his blood wasn't pure, the only person that could like properly kill him was like Spider-Man. So he was like begging Spider-Man to kill him again and just put him back to rest because it was against his wishes. He didn't want to be resurrected, but his family did it anyway. So no, I a good villain. I just don't know how they'll do the whole kind of big game hunter. I think he kind of in the comics eventually he captures them, but he doesn't kill them. But obviously he also walks about with like a big giant lion head, like kind of jacket. So
that's faux fur. It's faux fur. He's a vegan.
I mean potentially. You know, he captures them, and as soon as he's captured them and proved, because I think he basically in the comics he'll like basically just capture a lion with his bare hands kind of thing and just kind of prove that he's the kind of ultimate predator, and then he lets them go. So I don't know how they'll do that because that could be a bit kind of risky in today's kind of.
Pete, I ain't going to like that.
No.
Okay, I think the last thing worth mentioning was the fact that MGM has been bought by Amazon. You were mentioning, somebody mentioned Robocop earlier when we were talking about the revived franchises. That is one of the franchises, I believe, that falls under that umbrella. So Amazon are now in charge of Robocop, along with a few others. One, though, that I think is going to pretty much stay the same is Bond, because the Broccoli's, who are the family that own the rights, they are like super. They approve everything that happens in the films. They approve the casting. They're like really kind of Nazi-ish with like the Bond films. So they, I think, are retaining 50% of the creative control, and Amazon are getting the other half. So basically, they'll still have a big say. But other than that, I think all the kind of big MGM franchises like your Rocky and I guess Creed as well, and Robocop and loads of others, Bond obviously, they're all going to Amazon. So I think that's interesting.
Well, what a great time to get rid of Daniel. What's his face?
Craig. Yeah. Well, that was my thought. I thought, well, that's him. Then that's him done because he's not going to join a new kind of series. That's
His Knives Out seems to be his big thing now.
Yeah.
I'm okay with.
I wonder if Amazon, how they will tackle it, because with the Broccoli still having so much say, I assume it will still be a series of movies. I don't think it will be like a Bond TV show or something. I think it will be like still a big cinema release and all the rest of it, just with a different studio behind it, I guess. But things like Robocop, I mean, that's ripe for Amazon Prime. Do you know what I mean? And I guess even like Rocky or Creed, again, I think Michael B. Jordan's directing this movie, but I think he's also probably wanting to move on to other things at this point after Creed 3. So again, there's a big franchise for Amazon Prime. So I definitely will see things happening from it.
The big thing for me from it is, and it might not even be a thing that happens, but I'd say MGM's biggest thing is Wizard of Oz. So I wonder if anything happens there.
Well, there's a franchise that has been attempted to be revived a few times, and it's never really worked. But
not until it's never been like a direct
remake.
Revision. It's always been like a prequel or like a sequel. Like, not that I want to see Wizard of Oz redone because I think it's just a tortured film that we should just leave as it is.
But I
Poltergeist is one of theirs. I always thought that should have, because even when they revived it a few years ago, like I quite liked the reboot. But that's something that I think should be revisited. And Clueless as well. That's one of their kind of big hits. Stargate.
Yeah,
I know the Stargate movie in quite a long time. It's always been a TV show. The Man in the Iron Mask, again, that's probably due a reboot as well. Ronin, another one.
Was that the
So there's tons of movies, Hannibal movies, so that belongs to them.
I'd be up for that.
There's a franchise that needs a breath of fresh air.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Bulletproof Monk, bring that back, is it? No, I'm kidding.
Oh yeah.
On the topic of Hannibal, I'd like to see if they were down for it to bring Hannibal the TV show and make a film adaptation of that.
Get Jodie Foster.
Could go for it. Get
Jodie Foster. I think if Jodie Foster agreed to come back, that because I mean it couldn't always, you could have Hannibal, but you could also introduce like the kind of Dexter element to it, where you have like one main villain where she's hunting him, and obviously it's Hannibal. But then you could also have like copycat villains, like just like the movie, basically.
Yeah.
There's TV shows as well. Like obviously they're doing the Dexter revival. Like there's so many TV shows as well that could be revisited. Like movie like TV shows that didn't end the way everybody would have liked. So like now
Game of Thrones.
we like nostalgia will forever be a thing, and nostalgia was like really really big in the early 2000s, and now it's kind of like it's came back around again where people were like, oh, let's just reboot this. And I'm like, well, I'm at the age where like I remember where they rebooted it the first time and it was still that good. So I'm like, yeah, just reboot it again. Let's go. So I do like a good reboot, but there was just so many in the 2000s where it's like they were rebooted and you don't even remember the reboot just because it was that bad and that forgotten about. So okay,
I think that's us for news. I don't know if you guys want to. I don't know if you guys want to sum up like what you've watched or if you've reviewed it this week or.
So just quickly, I'm really wanting to see the Spiral movie, the Book of Saw, with
Chris Rock.
Went blank. Chris Rock, yes. So I have been making my girlfriend Heather. We've been making our way through the Saw movies, and I just realised that besides Saw 1 and Saw 2, I haven't seen any of the Saw movies after that.
Yeah,
and it's I think the Saw movies, I think it was an excellent kind of like debut movie that just like in the same room for pretty much the full time. In the second movie with the house and they're all locked in the house, it kind of went down south. But I think it would have done so much better if they had like one or two like big name actors instead of like Mark Wahlberg's brother that you don't really know, Donnie Wahlberg. Like, so I'm looking forward to see. But a lot of the reviews I've seen recently aren't that great of this Spiral movie. I've also watched the Friends reunion, which was nice. The Wrath of Man with Jason Statham, really enjoyed that actually. And then Cruella last night, where I kind of put it on just for like my girlfriend, but I was also like, get a shot, see what it's like. And it was good, brilliant, totally different for a Disney movie. It was very like punk rock, like kind of, I think it was set in the 60s and 70s. Really good cast. Emma Thompson was good, good soundtrack. Like they played Iggy Pop and the Stooges, and it's like I Want to Be Your Dog, and I was like, oh, I've not heard this song for ages, and it was only when I was like, wait, nice. It's all about Dalmatians, like, right, get it, but no, great movie. A lot of the live action Disney movies I've watched, not really been a fan of. I liked Aladdin. Apart from that, I've not liked any of the live action movies, but this was excellent. I think I don't know why, but like Emma Stone has just been kind of forgotten about. Like she did obviously the Spider-Man movies, she did Zombieland, and then obviously they brought her back for Zombieland 2 because it wouldn't have made sense not to have her there. But I just feel like since her initial few years, she's went to that point where she was going to be like the next big thing, and then at some point she's hit 30, and then she's deemed as like too old, and then she's just kind of like disappeared. So I think she was great casting. Hopefully this leads to more roles.
Yeah, no, she's a good actor. I saw Spiral, and do you know what? IGN gave it like a 3. That is ridiculous. Like, what are you expecting for the 11th Saw movie? Do you know what I mean? Like,
is that 11?
I'm guessing. I don't know. There was 6 or 7, and then there was Jigsaw, and then there was the final chapter, and then there was Spiral. So I guess it's 10. I don't know. Listen, it's all right. it's a dumb Saw film. It's kind of more like Seven or like maybe Mindhunter, but not as smart. It's like a dumb Mindhunter, basically. Yeah, it's more more a detective story than it is a kind of.
Without saying too much about it, how's Chris Rock in a serious role?
It's fine. Yes, I like Chris Rock.
Yeah, I'm interested in seeing him in that kind of capacity.
Is Peter what's his name?
Tobin Bell.
Tobin, I'm pretty.
Peter Tobin,
pretty sure Peter Tobin's an actual murderer. Right, okay, forget that. Edit that. Is he in the movie or
no? Tobin Bell, no. Jigsaw's dead.
Right, okay.
Jigsaw's dead. Okay. There's no cameo. There's no twist. No, Jigsaw's dead.
Right, okay.
No, this is a new guy.
Right, okay.
I mean, there is a twist at the end. You can see it coming a mile away, but it's a Saw film. Do you know what I mean? The traps are quite entertaining. What I struggled to buy was that Sam Jackson is Chris Rock's dad. There's only like 14 years between them, so I found that a bit strange. But do you know what? It's a Saw film. Who cares? Like,
see, I was willing to give it a chance just on the back of Danny McBride. So, like, Danny McBride, obviously pure silly comedian. He was part of the Halloween kind of revival. Like, he was involved in doing that, and when I was like, sorry, what? Chris Rock is reviving Saw? Like, the comedian Chris Rock? Like, is that who we're talking about here? And I was like, you know what? Like, look at like Seth Rogen. Seth Rogen's been involved in Preacher and then like The Boys and stuff like that, and I'm like.
Yep.
A good writer's a good writer. Maybe they made their name in comedy, but like sometimes it's like the pure out of place actors or directors that go to like a totally different genre of movie and it turns out to be excellent. So I'm all for it.
Did you ever see Stitches at all? It's the comedian Ross Noble.
No.
I'm a huge fan of him. He's a really weird, long-haired, wacky guy.
Yeah, it's quite funny. Yeah, I know.
I love him. He had a film out where he played a killer clown. Like an undead killer clown,
right?
And it's like a British, it's a British horror, but it's also like played for laughs as well. Like with him being a clown, he's got like the squeaky nose and stuff, and they do a lot of like really inventive like murders. But like it was so out of left field for him.
Yeah,
but it's really good as well. It's worth checking out.
So it's mental.
No, Ross Noble's good.
Yeah. I don't think Spyro's going to like kick off any big budget franchise moneymaker, but it's fine. It's a decent film. It's not a 3. That was just ridiculous. When I was listening to the IGN review, I'm like, what did you think this was going to be? Did you think it was going to be a David Fincher film? Like, go away. You know what I mean? It's going to be a Saw film. Know your audience. I mean, read the room. Ben, what have you been doing, watching, reading?
So I mentioned I watched Nomadland last night with my mum and dad.
Yeah.
And I'm usually not a fan of Frances McDormand. I don't know why. There's something about her that irks me.
I love Frances McDormand, and I don't fancy this film. I don't know if it's just because it doesn't seem to be about anything, but
that's kind of the beauty of it. It has like a samsara kind of vibe where it's just life. Right. And a really beautiful thing about it is, I think there's a lot of characters in it, and I think Frances McDormand is the only actor.
Right.
The rest of them are,
I heard
like
that.
Actual nomads.
Yeah, it's like a semi-documentary, right?
Kinda, yeah. And I initially thought it, but I had it reversed in my mind. But yeah, like for there being only one actor in it, everyone gives an incredible performance.
Right.
It's really heartfelt.
Well, I guess they're playing themselves, so it's going to be good.
Yeah, it's just a very natural film. So I would give it a watch, especially since it's on Disney Plus.
Aye.
Other than that, I haven't been watching much. Just finished Black Sad Under the Skin video game. I'll bring out a review for that soon. It's kind of like BoJack Horseman meets LA Noire. So you're playing a private eye detective in a kind of New York concrete jungle of animals,
right?
Anthropomorphic animals.
Yeah.
Really awesome voice cast.
Is it like
really fun game.
Is it like a 2D kind of side-on game?
No. It has elements of that. It's 3D.
Right. I'm trying to think if I know it. I don't think I do.
It was based on a comic series by the same name,
right.
Black Sad.
Okay.
That I'm going to try and review at some point. But really inventive.
Okay.
And I say great characters.
Oh,
the story is really good, and
I'll check it. I'll check out your review, and if it's good, then I might check it out. Man, that sounds good.
The only issue with it is it's a kind of semi-independent game.
Okay.
And I've got a major gripe with games these days. It's a bit unfinished.
Right.
It's a bit unpolished in places, despite it being out since about 2018, 19.
Right. Okay.
And I've had a couple of crashes with it. But
sucks.
once you get past that, it's a great experience.
What are you playing on, Ben? What platform?
Sorry, PS4.
PS4. Okay. All right. Well, I'll check it out anyway. Okay, guys. I think we will wrap that up there. For any other reviews and stuff, go to the website www.bigglasgowcomicpage.com. We will have links in the description. And thanks for being here and sitting doing this podcast with me, guys. And I'm not very good at outros, so I'm going to play Ian's in post. And we'll see you next week. I don't know if maybe E3 predictions might be the topic, because the E3 is the following week after that, but we'll see. Anyway, all the best.
Thank you for listening to Disassembled. You can find more news and reviews on bigglasgowcomicpage.com. And don't forget, you can also find us on Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube as BGCP Comic Con. Make sure you also subscribe on your podcast provider of choice for new episodes every week.